Stand tall, Guardian. This battle is lost, but there will be others.
Guardian down.
Hello, and welcome to Guardian Down Cast, more than just space magic with the Gatr. This is a special mini episode where we talk about everything about the Crucible. I wanted to include this segment in our regular weekly podcast, but in order to respect our listeners' time, I've decided to make a standalone segment that I'll release every so often in between our regularly scheduled shows. So please, if you would, give me some feedback on this and let me know if you want a mini show that is dedicated to the Crucible. You can DM me on Twitter at ToddTheGator or leave a comment in our Discord channel labeled Show Feedback. I appreciate you listening today. In today's episode, we're talking about the proposed new Crucible meta for the new Shadowkeep Expansion and the Season of the Undying in Destiny 2, which arrives on October 1st. I wanted to get some other points of view on the Crucible, so I invited my friend RockerDude here to discuss the new Crucible changes coming to Shadowkeep. How's it going, RockerDude?
It's going well. I appreciate you inviting me. I honestly don't consider myself that great of a PvPer, but I do enjoy it. Kind of burned myself out this season, but let's talk some PvP.
Yeah, you're being modest. I've seen your stats, dude. I've seen your stats.
So I just play and have fun, all right?
I do too. I mean, I think we're both students of the game, and we both want to get better, and that's why I wanted to talk to you tonight, because I think we're very like-minded when it comes to it. But I know it's been a while since we talked last, but what have you been up to lately? Have you taken a little bit of a break from Destiny? You playing something else?
I have. Like I said, I burned myself out. So the last probably month or so, I've been focusing on nothing but comp and actually just PvP, ended up getting Revoker, Luna's, Redrix. Yeah, I ended up getting Wendigo, okay. And then all the other ones. But man, Mountaintop is one that either I have to join one of those like cheese lobbies or...
Yeah. I agree, man.
So I'm just not a big fan of grenade launchers and PvP in general.
I'm not either, and I don't know if I'm going to be running around trying to get double kills in Crucible. That's just not my style, man. I figured, you know what, I've got a Wendigo, and I've got also spike grenades on all my, I got the one from Iron Banner, so I think I'm good there. If it means a little bit more having a Mountaintop, then so be it, but... Well, thanks for coming in today, man. I know we had talked a couple weeks ago about doing this, and we were hoping that they were going to talk more about weapon meta in the TWABs, but I guess that's where they're leaving it. So I'm a little disappointed in that, but you know what? I wanted to just preface this and say that this discussion tonight we are going to have is based on the TWABs from September 5th and September 12th. The September 5th being on the abilities and the Crucible changes, and September 12th being about the weapon changes that they're going to do. So I figured this would be a good time to talk about this and go from there on it. Thanks again, Rocker, for joining us tonight, and let's move on and talk about first the changes to the Crucible environment.
Are you trying to kill me? Just win!
Okay, first we're going to talk about the heavy ammo sharing in Crucible. I'm just going to read it a little bit here from the TWAB, and then we'll comment on it. It says heavy ammo is shared only in the 6v6 modes, and those crates have a kind of a sparkling effect to denote this. Once a player picks up heavy ammo, their teammates have a limited amount of time. They're saying currently 7 seconds. And they said that this is something they can tweak, from season to season. And to interact with the same ammo crate to get the heavy ammo. If the other team picked up the crate, it will turn red to indicate that you cannot pick it up if you're on the opposite team. So there's a small window, and then the crate and all the extra ammo disappears. What do you think about this, Rocker? Good thing, bad thing for Crucible?
For me, I think it's going to depend on how it works. D1, it worked, I think it was once, maybe twice in a control match or those kind of matches where everybody could get the heavy, but once it was used up, it was gone. So if it's like that, I don't mind it. I think it's fine. But if it's still on the same spawn timer, I just think it's going to overflow quick play with nothing but heavy. I think people are going to be camping it, and yeah, I don't know. It'll be interesting to see, but yeah, that would be my one worry. How are they going to implement it? Is it, okay, everybody gets heavy now, but it's heavily, reduced. You're not going to have the same spawn timer you currently have, so...
Well, the good news about it is, Rocker, is it's only in the 6v6 modes. In other words, the casual
Right.
playlist. So the elimination playlist in Crucible Labs and all the glory playlist, even the solo ones, those are going to be unshared. So what they did say though is that on the shared crates, like in the 6v6 modes, you'll get less ammo per crate drop.
Oh, okay.
So it will be they are going to nerf a little bit of the amount of ammo you get. Maybe instead of
Right.
30 rounds of machine gun ammo, you get maybe 15 or 20 maybe. But more people can have it. So I don't know. I'm curious to see what they do. In 4v4 and 3v3 modes in the competitive modes, there's really no difference. Only one person's going to get the ammo when they go to it, and you know how that goes in the competitive playlist. It's
Right.
it's all about that heavy, man. Everyone focuses on that heavy area. So
Oh, for sure.
one thing I did want to mention next was the rank systems update, the streaks and floors. They said glory, valor, and infamy streaks have been made more resilient. Instead of resetting your streak, losses will now reduce your valor and infamy streaks by 1 and your glory streak by 2. You can still lose glory, but if your rank is at or below fabled, you can't lose glory if doing so would drop you below that rank. Each rank through fabled acts as a floor for glory. What do you think about this? This is big.
It's definitely interesting. The fact that you can't go below, I guess it's fabled. That's like the right.
Well,
Once you hit fabled, you can't go below that. Even if you lose, you kind of just stay at 2100.
That's what they're saying, and that would be my problem. Is thank God to get the the revoker and the submachine gun
Recluse.
There
Recluse.
you go. Thank you.
Yeah.
Once you hit fabled, you got it. You've met the requirement. But if you're trying to get fabled and try to work your way up fabled into mythic and then to the legend, it's a little harder to do when you're right at the fabled edge and you keep dropping back to heroic. That's so frustrating, man, when that happens.
Right.
But and the glory streaks, I like that too. Your infamy streaks and your valor streaks will decrease by 1. It doesn't wipe it out and totally reset it to 0. And your glory streaks reduced by 2. I mean, that's better than it just resetting to nothing, right?
Oh, for sure.
Yeah. So
I think I think it'll just make it a lot easier, more accessible for maybe players who don't play comp all the time or are kind of solo queuing. That was a big thing for me this season. Was I solo queued everything up to 2100. I think I got up to like 3000, but I would hit like a 3 or a 4 streak and then lose one, or puts me in a match with 3v4, 2v4, and then you end up just completely wiping it out. So definitely a fan of it being more lenient.
Well, they got to do something, Rocker, to get people to play more competitive. And it's kind of disheartening when you're playing and you're trying to get to 2100, and every time, I mean, I soloed all the way to 2000, 1900, and then I had a buddy of mine help. We had a 7-game win streak to push me over the edge into fabled. I think I ended up with like 22 something, but after I was done with my requirements, I really didn't want to play. Once you get into fabled, you're going to start playing a lot of 3 stacks and 4 stacks. But here's the thing: solo playlist. They're going to have a solo playlist now. So what do you think about that? I mean, sounds like we're both solo players, and when it comes to competitive, right?
Yeah, and I think that's going to be actually really good. Now I'm wondering if solos only get queued up with other solos, or because right now currently you can either, if you're in a stack, you could face another stack or a bunch of solo players. And what I found is when it does that, it tries to compensate way too much. So if you're running a 4 stack and the other team are all solos, those 4 solos are like way more skilled than sometimes some of my teammates or even myself, which makes it uneven. Because you guys can communicate, but just the gun skill and movement skill, knowing the map, sometimes that just, that's way more advantageous than being able to talk to your teammate who maybe doesn't play all the time, or he just kind of, casually plays. Yeah. I'll be curious to see that.
Yeah, I mean, I think that was their attempt to try to level the playing field for solo players. And I admit, when I solo played and we had a 4 stack come up, I knew that 4 stack was not going to be as good skill wise as the guys in our even if we had a 2 stack and 2 randoms, me being one of them, I knew that we had a better chance, at least somewhat of a better chance. It at least evened it a little bit. But yeah, I mean, if I played with, I do a lot worse, Rocker, if I play with a group. If I play with a 3 or 4 stack, and let's face it, I mean, a lot of our friends are very casual when it comes to, I mean, including us, I guess. We're all casual. We don't have people that are going to carry us through games. So if we have a bunch of us in a 4 stack against a bunch of super killers that are, playing solo, one person can really take an advantage and really curb the results of a game, no matter what, like you said, no matter what communication you have. So yeah, I'm wondering how I know it's going to be skill-based matchmaking, but I wonder if you played in the regular, I wonder if those same skill ratings are going to apply if you decide not to play in the solo one and go into the regular 3v3 playlist.
Yeah, it'll be interesting to see how kind of they figure everything out. I'm assuming solo means exclusively solo, but I'm wondering how that works with, if you're playing in a team or not.
Yeah, well, I guess time will tell, right?
Right, because I would think you'd still face other solos, because if you have a 2 stack, then you got to fill it in somehow.
Yeah, I agree.
So, I guess we'll see.
Well, one other thing they mentioned here before we move on is their new way of giving you your glory rank. And it says, as you play in their survival playlist, the glory system will accelerate you to the rank that corresponds to your skill ratings. And they said Destiny has always tracked player skill behind the scenes, taking into account things like kills, damage dealt, and so forth. And they said that these factors all contribute to a player's skill rating. And they said in Season 8 that they map skill ratings to glory ranks. And with the lowest end of the scale mapping to Guardian 1 and the high end mapping to Legend, most players are somewhere in between these extremes. So what they're saying is if your current rank is below where your skill rating says you should be, you'll earn extra glory based on that criteria. So you'll get to your expected rank faster and lose less glory so you don't fall farther away. Once you reach that, quote, expected rank, the glory gains and losses will normalize. What that basically means is players like True Vanguard, they're going to shoot right up to their probably Mythic and Legend right off the bat, which is great for us because we don't have such a big mountain to climb now, right? Playing a solo players. Well, I mean, we're going to pretty much go to our expected glory rank, which is probably somewhere for me. Be honestly, I'm probably somewhere between Heroic and Fabled, somewhere in that range. But I'll tell you what, man, I don't know about you, but getting from Guardian to even high Heroic, that took a long time, dude.
Yeah, definitely a fan of this. I'm just... because I know they mentioned something else. What did they mention? Shifting this into
yeah, they said it was that your skill rating was gonna continually adjust based on your performance. So that they're probably gonna go to the ELO system there. I bet you they're gonna shift gears to kind of an ELO type system.
Right, but I also thought I read that they're kind of the glory points that you get are very personal. So you could get like 30 points and your teammate, maybe they did way worse and they'll get like 10 or 15 or whatever. So every single player's is different, which is great because there's some times where, I put in a lot of work and we end up losing, but, I end up still losing the same amount as everybody, or, maybe I don't do as well and I'm still getting the same amount of points as, the guy who, quote unquote carried me. So yeah, I actually really like that.
Yeah, and there's nothing more disheartening than getting the Fight Me medal at the end when you lose the game. You've done more damage than both teams combined, but your team was so bad that it just wasn't enough, I'm not boasting my gameplay or anything, but we all have those games where we're kind of carrying the team, man. We're trying, we're playing our life, we're trying to stay alive. You got people feeding the other team like idiots, and you're like, what the hell's going on here? I mean, how are we supposed to possibly win this game when we have 2 freaking randoms running right at the team to get killed?
Right.
And then here you are playing strategic, trying to, watch your lanes and trying to, get to the right areas and get your angles and stuff, playing like you should. And I don't know. I love that they're doing it that way, though. I'm glad you mentioned that because, that's going to be very important. Let's move on to the new sandbox update for abilities. I don't want to spend too much time here because I want to talk mainly about the guns because that's what everyone wants to know, right? What guns can I bring in? But there's a lot of important stuff here we need to go over. On our show, we were running out of time and we couldn't talk about this stuff about the TWAB, and I figured this would be a good time to go over this. First of all, it talks about the buffs. It says the Night Stalker, Way of the Pathfinder, in other words, the bottom tree. Mm-hmm. They want to make his scouting abilities basically more rewarding. So what they did is the Vanish, the smoke bomb, it grants invisibility to not only you but to allies. It gives 1 stack of Heart of the Pack, which has been revamped to all allies when it hits them. It grants plus 34 to armor. That's huge. Armor, recovery, and agility. It grants 34 points. That's a big jump. And it gives weapon reload speed and handling, and it maxes at 3 stacks of it. So, and you also get increased invisibility duration for another second. In other words, from 7 to 8 seconds. What do you think about that, man? Are you, I didn't ever ask you. Are you what class do you main?
Really depends. I do like to play around a little bit. For PvP, I'm primarily a gunslinger, top tree, 6-shooter.
Okay.
In comp, I ended up playing a lot of the Way of 1,000 knives or whatever, so just because the super was a shutdown super.
Yeah,
but I'm a hunter main.
You're a hunter main. Period. Okay, so I'm a warlock main. You probably have a lot more insight on this than I do, so I'll let you. I'll get more of your opinion on this stuff. Okay, let's start with the bottom tree Pathfinder. Is that something you think you would use?
After looking through all these notes, honestly, I think this might become the meta. It really depends on what all the abilities are actually going to do. Because one, the plus 34 to armor, recovery, agility seems like a lot, but you also got to remember they're changing how everything works. Oh, yeah. So plus 34 could theoretically be, like a 10% buff or 15% buff. It's not necessarily a huge jump.
That's a good point.
I guess once we find out how they're going to be able to customize your character, then we'll know exactly how much that is. But I don't know if it doesn't mention specifically that is going to stack up to 3. It just mentions the reload speed and handling. But either way, it's a good ability. Making all your allies invisible plus getting perks on top of it is pretty good.
Well, it also talks, since we're talking on that same tree, it says killing tethered enemies creates super orbs and increases agility, armor, and recovery for allies. The new perk, the old perk, it says the old perk benefits move to part of the Mobius quiver. But damaging enemies with your grenades reduces the cooldown of your smoke bomb 6% per damage tick. It also says making allies invis gives you more grenade energy, 17.5% per ally. That just probably adds more power, more punch to it, doesn't it?
Yeah, it creates more of a synergy. I think currently the way it is, it's Night Stalker in general, and I think most hunter subclasses in general are very, very solo. I mean, tether, yeah, you could tether multiple enemies and create more orbs and that kind of stuff, but I think this whole bottom tree really makes it more of a support because, you're making your teammates invisible, and if the more teammates you make, the more grenade energy you get. Now if you use your grenade energy to maybe control zones or attack a group, now you're getting smoke bombs. So it's a nice synergy. Honestly, I can already tell people are probably going to say this is OP, but I'm really excited to actually try it, especially with the next perk, Mobius Quiver, and I'll let you kind of get into that.
Well, yeah, it just says fires super multiple times and deals massive damage to tethered targets. Added the old provision perk to be naturally a part of Mobius Quiver. Killing tethered enemies creates super orbs and grants stacks of Heart of the Pack for allies and expands the range of the Heart of the Pack from 20 to 30 meters. Yeah, so Mobius Quiver might, and if I'm reading that right, does it mean Mobius Quiver you can one-shot people directly?
Or can the next line, yeah.
Yeah.
Shadow shot, super top and bottom pad damage increase from 150 to 250, one-shot kill in PvP.
Right.
Which, bottom perk tree, I think right now you can shoot 5 arrows, if I'm not mistaken, which, if all those make it a one-hit kill,
it might as well be a Nova Bomb. It might as well be a Nova Bomb. I mean, just kill them all. When you're, like, if you got to fight, let's say you have 4 or 5 people on a flag on control trying to take it all at once, and Iron Banner or whatever, you could come in there and just go boom, boom, just like a golden gun. It's a little slower, but you could still do it though, technically.
Oh, for sure. I mean, right now it's honestly tether right now is kind of useless, and I thought they would only do that to top tree just because you only get the one shot, plus the range is bigger.
Right.
So very surprised that they added it to bottom perk tree, but expect a lot of hunter mains to start using that. Just the synergy between abilities and the one hit kill, multiple kills it's going to be good.
Well, while we're on the topic of the Night Stalker class,
Mhm.
now let's talk about the nerfs. What they're changing on that ability. It says Night Stalker Way of the Trapper, which is the top tree. The Shadow Shot. It fires an arrow that damages enemies and debuffs enemies nearby. They said that damage sharing for the Night Stalker player specifically reduced from 100 to 50%. Now all
Yep.
allied players have 50% damage sharing on Tether. Dude, in PvE alone, that's going to be big.
Well, oh yeah, that is in PvE as well.
Yeah,
In
I mean-
PvP, honestly, in PvP, I think that's just going to make it pretty much not necessarily useless, but the benefit to running top tree is one, the neutral game's pretty good, but being able to, you have 5 guys on control A or something like that, and you pop your tether, you kill one guy with, heavier or shotgun or whatever, pretty much the rest of them die. So now what's going to happen though, it's going to make it more likely for you to not survive that, because it's not going to be a one-hit kill anymore. They can all kind of counter back.
And also because they're getting 50% less damage, they're going to be able to shake out of that tether a lot easier and get away.
Right.
And they'll probably fire back at you if they're out of the range. The other nerf was the one you talked about, the Way of the Wraith, the middle tree. That flawless execution, the headshots crouched, grant you invisibility and true sight. That goes from 3 down now, lasts only 3 seconds, down from 9.
From 9.
Dude, that's huge, especially if you like to snipe.
Yeah, but I think it was needed. 9 seconds, maybe 5 seconds would have been a good medium, but 9 seconds of being able to see through walls was a little bit ridiculous.
That is crazy. I watched Drewski on playing on PC. He did a lot of the sniping like that, and yeah, man, that's a long time to be able to.
Well, you got sniping, you got chaperone. It gives you every little bit of intel about your enemy, where they're going to be. You can just kind of wait for them to come to you. It's just, it was. I think it's one of the abilities that was a little bit OP. So 3 seconds, maybe a little less, maybe 5 seconds would have been better, but I'm perfectly fine with that.
Well, it talks about Shattering Strike here, and I guess this is pertaining to the Arc subclass, right?
So Shattering Strike, I believe, was no, it's still Way of the Wraith. So it was kind of like Hammer Strike, where it gave you a debuff. Honestly, I don't know if people ran it for PvP, mostly for PvE, but after doing Flawless Execution, your melee gave like a 3-second debuff, I believe. So it did like 30% more damage.
I see.
To all damage coming in. So, yeah.
Okay, so they made a big change to that. Okay, gotcha. The other ability changes they're making to the Titan. I don't know if you're familiar with Titan a lot. That's probably the least of my familiar things, because I love.
Honestly, I haven't played a Titan in probably like 7-8 months, maybe.
Well, I've played it enough, so I guess I can speculate a little on this. But the Sentinel Code of the Protector, the top tree. This is the Void Sentinel subtree for the Titan. That says this path is the main support role for Titans and focuses heavily on melee kills while staying near allies. We want to focus more heavily on buffing allies so that players care about timing of their buff usage, with a loop which allows players to get their melee energy back more quickly. This will be a more engaging path to play. Additionally, Ward of Dawn is currently not up to snuff and needs a buff that ties into the fantasy of buffing allies. So they're talking about the defensive strike, melee ability that creates an overshield for nearby allies. All kills while the overshield is active grant melee energy for the player with the shield. Works for all allies you grant the shield to. This is based upon enemy threat level from 5% minors to 25% players and bosses. So this looks like it's mainly PvE, a lot of this stuff they're talking about. Rallying.
Well, I mean, 25% players and bosses. So in PvP, you get 25% melee energy if you kill someone while you have the overshield.
Yeah, I guess that's true. That would be considered a buff then. Yeah. Okay.
For sure.
Okay. And as far as the, like I originally talked about, the top tree of Sentinel, it looks like you're going to have to be more strategic on how you use it, not just spam it all the time. Because
well, the melee, yes. So
yeah.
If you read through all of it, it's I expect this to be, for somebody who likes being support, somebody who maybe doesn't like being as aggressive or kind of the forefront, this is going to give them another option, especially in game modes like Control, where having points, control points is kind of key. Or even what's the game mode where you plant the bomb and defuse?
Oh god, I try to forget about that game type.
Which is funny because it's actually my favorite comp.
Really? You like that game?
Yeah, I
every
love
time
that thing.
every time it comes up, I'm like, oh, I just shake my head. Oh, this is gonna be bad.
Because I feel it's like the only game mode where there's an actual objective. It's not just, well, kill these people or stay
true.
alive. It's like, you know, there's some strategy to it versus just, well, shoot your gun and try and kill as many people as possible.
Yeah.
I can't remember.
I'm trying to remember the name of it too. It's eluding me.
But you know that one.
Yeah, that one. Exactly. Exactly.
Yeah.
Just like you said. Yeah.
Yeah. So read on through the rest of
Yeah,
I would read through everything they're talking about, and then we'll come back and talk because
let's do that. Yeah, there's a lot of stuff here. Rallying force, melee kills, heal nearby allies, heals buff from 10 health and 10 shields to 10 health and 20 shields, 50% increase. Ward of Dawn, alternate super that creates a shield bubble. Increase Ward of Dawn, increase ward health versus supers. Most supers will require the whole thing to be dumped on the ward to destroy it, but will usually not kill the players inside. I remember I used to use Nova Bombs all the time on these guys.
Yep.
And I'd wipe everybody out that was in it. Also, Ward grants weapons of light buff when passing through, 35% weapon damage for 15 seconds. Grants an additional super orb. Now it's 3 when you throw up a bubble. Auto-generated orbs now grant the same amount of super energy as regular super orbs. Previously, the orbs gave less energy on par with Masterwork orbs. So, wow. Yeah. Weapons of light.
That's what I'm talking about.
The weapons of light alone.
Yeah. Well, not even that, but now you only get 2 orbs. So if you popped your bubble, it helped your teammates, but now you get an extra orb, and all 3 orbs are going to give you as much as a regular super energy orb.
That's crazy.
So if you're somebody who's kind of passive, who doesn't, kind of likes to aid your teammates instead of being on the forefront, planting your bubble gives them 3 orbs. If somebody's super close to their super and they just need that extra push, you just pop that bubble, give them that super, and then kind of chain off a little bit. I think we're going to talk about supers more as we get down. But, yeah. 3 orbs. Not only that, but then you get the melee ability, gives your teammates all a shield. And then the more people you kill with while you have that overshield gives you up to 25% if you kill other PvP players.
Right.
Melee kills also heal your nearby allies, giving them 10 health and 20 shield.
Yep.
So listen, if you're a Titan and you like to punch, and that's what Titans are for, punching stuff, I think this is going to be a very, very good subclass for people to run.
Rocker, here's the situation I see. I'm running, I'm on my Warlock, I'm blinking up to throw my Nova on this Ward of Dawn that's on the B flag on Iron Banner. I destroy the orb, but they still have weapons of light for 15 seconds, and they all shoot my ass down out of the air. This is what I envision seeing happening with this ability. So time will tell, I guess. I mean, that's a lot of synergy, like you said, man. I don't know.
Well, that's the thing with the bubble too. The extra health before you could, use your blade barrage, and it would kill the bubble plus kill the person inside.
Yep.
Golden gun 6-shooter, you can drop, I believe it was 4 or 5 shots, and then use your last shot to kill the player inside. So it was very situational. Bubble really wasn't as great as in D1. So I think this automatically bumps it up to like that D1 status. I don't know if you remember with weapons of light and icebreaker, you could body shot people.
Oh yeah, I remember. It was
so
well. Now they're returning to that. I mean, now say you're running toward, or even say you're avoiding it. Sometimes I'll go see they'll pop a bubble, and I'm like, all right, I'll just wait for it to wear out. I'm here. I'm here all day, guys. As soon as it goes out, I'm coming in with my Nova, and I'm knocking you guys out. But these guys, now it gives them incentive to come out of their bubble instead of hiding in it, because they're going to get they're going to get that weapons of light for 15 seconds. That's plenty of time. That's 35%. So they can be shooting and then use that bubble to dip in and out of, just like they would cover. So man, that's going to be huge, dude.
Yep.
That's going to be huge.
And it sounds a little bit OP now, but as we get down to kind of the bottom, we'll kind of start seeing that it's all of these are. I just don't see any of them being OP, and we'll talk about why.
Well,
we get there.
Really quickly, this probably relates more to PvE than PvP, but the Titan Rally barricades and Warlock Rifts, Wells of Radiance, are no longer going to be auto reloads. I think everyone's kind of known that now for a couple of weeks. You'll just be able to reload faster, so I don't think that's going to be a big deal on PvP. But we're talking about the super energy regeneration. It says these changes will reduce the speed with which players are able to earn their super, which supports difficulty and reduces the current ability to trivialize certain content through excessively chaining supers. PvP. Systematically, we want to reduce base sources of supers on large macro scale without diminishing the feeling that your actions are gaining you a worthwhile energy boost. By reducing the speed at which you gain a super, we can make mods and perks feel more worthwhile. So they're going to tie in the artifacts here. We still want it to feel like you can make meaningful progress, not only through normal play, but by augmenting super energy through teamwork, class choices, gear, and skillful play. This raises the skill ceiling, basically, dude. Because if you don't know how these things synergize, you're not with a team that knows how to put all this stuff together. You're going to have full teams that know this and have this knowledge. They're going to run over you if you aren't synergized with your team. So,
well, not even that, but it's going to force you to be more cautious of when you're using your super. Currently, you see 2-3 people, you're like, oh, okay, cool, I can use it here. But what it's going to end up doing is potentially you only have one super for the whole match.
Yeah, definitely. It's
So
gonna be slower.
you waste it, or you use it stupidly, or you whiff on it, and that's a big turnaround.
I don't know about you, but I've been getting almost 3 supers in competitive matches with the Skull of Akam Dara.
Oh. Yeah, that thing.
For your blade barrage, you got your arms.
Yeah, I never used it in comp just because
it's a shutdown super.
Yeah, but I just don't take off Dragon Shadow.
Yeah, I hear you, man. I hear you.
I don't know. I'm not a huge user of supers, to be honest. I have fun with them, but the neutral game is so much more important for me than a super, because the super is like kind of a one-time thing. You use it, cool, maybe you get 4 or 5 kills or whatever.
Right.
But being able to always have something is huge. It's a lot better for me.
Well, just to read this quickly, the super orbs have been 50% reduced as far as how much super they give you back. Masterwork orbs have been eliminated altogether, by the way. I was reading further down, it said that Masterwork armor is going to have no damage resistance, so there's not going to be a reason to have Masterwork orbs on weapons. I'm sorry,
armor.
They've been 50% reduced, so they're only 2.5%. Kills 3%. You're only getting 3% super per player kill in the Crucible, and assist you're getting 1.5% towards your super on assist. So yeah, dude, that's gonna really slow things down. The other stuff is kind of about PvE, so I don't think we want to talk about that because this is more centered to PvP. Energy debuffs, do we need to talk about that as far as because they talk about PvP in this, don't they? Do we need to talk about player damage buffs, the player bonuses? That's pretty much, they're saying combined. They're saying that they're, they already talked about this. Luke Smith talked about this, how you're not going to be able to stack and combine different buffs to, unless it's from like a gun, like Rampage or Kill Clip or a special exotic weapon buff.
Right. The highest buff will always take precedence. And then once that runs out, if there's another one on top of that, then it'll go to the next highest. And
Exactly what I was just going to say. Yeah, so we kind of understand what that's going to do. Yeah, like you said, Weapons of Light, we just talked about. The bonus damage is now 35%. It was previously 25%, so that's what you were talking about. How Weapons of Light is now going to buff damage. Like we talked about, 35%. That's huge. That's huge in Crucible. So time will just tell there. And the others have all been nerfed. So Well of Radiance, Sun Warrior, Frontal Assault, those have all been nerfed. So those are going to probably be less valuable. But
Voidwalker Bottom Tree, I want to talk about that real quick. Yeah. I got a buff.
Yeah.
So that's the one that leaves a big vortex. And the initial explosion damage was increased by 15%, which may not seem like a lot, but it's actually a pretty decent buff. And then the lingering damage. So if you're in that vortex, you're doing 15% more damage. I think they did that because Top Tree is just pretty much automatically what you use.
Right.
Bottom Tree has Devour, but the super itself was lacking. So they kind of bumped it up a little bit to make it a little bit more enticing, which I think it will. I think it'll give people an option of using the bottom versus, I'm just going to use Top Tree all the time.
Well, as a Warlock main, I used to always use Devour because someone would shoot me. I just pop in a cover, swallow a grenade, be back to normal, and kill the person. And that was really nice to have, but the Nova just blew. When you threw that Nova, it was like one of those guns, and where the gun barrel just went. It just didn't. I mean, you throw it, it had no range. And really, if you didn't hit them perfectly with it, they just run away from it. Wouldn't do anything.
Well, and the thing too, you could run right through that vortex.
So it's gonna be more sensitive to damage now. That's good. Yeah. Was there anything else you want to talk about while we're talking about?
Yeah, just real quick. Well of Radiance. I think it made it basically it was already a true support, but They added an additional super orb, so when you cast that, now you're dropping 3 orbs. Kind of same thing with bubble. You know, if it's good to control a zone and then just to kind of give that extra bump to somebody who's almost got their super. Auto regenerated, same as super orbs. So the fact that orbs are 50% less super now makes every single one a little bit extra, a little bit better.
And those are full strength orbs too. They're not the lower reduced orbs. Yeah, gotcha. I did want to mention tractor cannon in PvE and PvP is now it gives you a plus 30 incoming, a 50% is now 50% incoming damage reduction from enemies. It was previously 33%, and you could only use it on things that shot void, I guess. Now they're saying you can use it for any element. So if I'm reading this right, it says incoming PvP damage is now plus 50% for all elements, not just void. So that's going to make it more useful in PvP, especially shutting down supers and stuff.
Well, I don't think it affects PvP that much, because basically what it's saying is previously if you had arc or solar and somebody was buffed with tractor cannon, it was only doing a 33%, and then if you had void, you were matching it, it was doing 50%.
I see.
So kind of the same thing in PvP. Now it's going to do an extra 50%, but for the most part you could kill even a super with one shot.
Yeah, that's right. I read that wrong. Yeah, thanks for correcting me on that, because I want to make sure we got this right. Yeah, I don't use it a lot in PvP, but I know True Vanguard loves it. Loves to shut people down with it.
When it first came out, I used to use it all the time. It was just fun to see people going flying
off the map.
Yeah.
Or I'd bounce them up like a rag doll onto the walls. If it was like a close range, like a lot of hallways and stuff, boy, that thing was deadly. We need to talk about reduced super damage resistance. I mean, there's a big paragraph on it, but I think we can kind of narrow it down really quick here. Like I said, super damage resistance was totally removed from Masterworked armor, so I thought that was lame anyway. I mean, I really didn't have much Masterworked armor because it really didn't do much. And then the inherent super damage resistance was lowered, and they have all these different categories. The lowest lowering was from 54% to 49%. That includes Nova Warp, Thunder Crash, Blade Barrage, Nova Bomb, Well of Radiance. Those are pretty lame supers. I mean, Blade Barrage is really good. It's a good shutdown. That's what I use when I play my Hunter. But what do you think of those listed there?
I mean, Blade and Nova, even Thunder Crash, they're all good.
They're all quick. They're all quick though. It's hard to get killed while you're in it.
Right. And that's a thing. So 5%, it's not much, but to be honest, you probably weren't going to kill anybody. But maybe somebody's trying to pop it while they're have health.
Yeah, it's happening.
And then you get that extra 5%. One shotgun shot maybe before it wouldn't kill him. Now it will. Nova Warp, I think it'll be nice.
Yes.
It'll be interesting to see exactly how much 5% is. But I don't know. I think overall, in general, all these percentages, it's not much, but I think it's going to be enough to where it's going to maybe encourage people to try and team shot or trying to take on a super versus not.
Versus running off the map. Yep.
Right, run off the map or just hiding.
Yeah, because just duck down and just keep moving and squatting. That's what I would do. Medium, I guess nerf you could call it, would be Hammer of Soul and Daybreak, which I agree with that. Those are very fast roaming supers, and they do seek you. I mean, with a Hammer of Soul, if you have the right tree, and Daybreak the same way, those things can find you around corners even sometimes.
Daybreak is ridiculous. I don't know why they keep buffing that thing.
I don't know.
Just every now and then you'll see a line in the TWAB. Oh, by the way, we buffed Daybreak again because it wasn't OP before.
Well, it's because no one wanted to play it. I remember playing the beta on PC and no one used it, and I had it on one. I said, you know what the heck, and then I realized I had that double dodge in the air. I was like, whoa, what was that? What did I just do? I got to figure out what I just did. And True Vanguard uses it all the time. He'll go in the air while he's floating in the air, and he'll double tap, I guess, his crouch button.
And dodge?
Yeah, dodge. Exactly. So it's kind of like a mid-air dodge. It was really nice. But Daybreak, they fire so fast. Even if you tried to fire and kill it, I don't know if it's going to be enough. But if I see a Daybreak come next season, I'm running. I'm just
and here's the thing that I don't think it's mentioned here. It might be mentioned in the weapons. But I think the 5%, the 5%, the 7% made it so that high impact snipers now do a one headshot kill to all supers. So even though it may not seem like a lot to regular guns, it made it so that you have a counter to it. And I would think maybe shotguns make it a shotgun melee,
right?
Maybe because currently you can't do that. It's like a shotgun melee or 2 shotgun shots. It's just
And I don't know if you saw it in the Vidoc, but they have that Crucible section where someone was running at him, I think, with hammers, and someone pulled their revoker out, and boom, they were down.
Yeah.
So I saw that and I was like, okay, gives me hope. And yeah, like you mentioned, the 7% decreases was Fist of Havoc, Burning Maul, Sentinel Shield, Arc Staff, Arc Lightning, and Shadow Shot. Poor Arc Staff. I mean, that's already a pretty weak. Everyone usually just runs after those guys when they pop it. I know I do, but Shadow Shot. What are you gonna do? I mean, if you can one hit people with tethers, then that might be a good trade off there. So, and the ones they didn't change was Spectral Blades. Bullshit. Excuse me. Golden Gun has always been 0, and Chaos Reach is now 40, or it stays at 40%. Chaos Reach. That
freaking Golden Gun.
I love Chaos Reach, but I just can't see anybody when I use it. Please,
right.
Bungie, help a brother out, man. Please give me a reticle or something. I know where the hell I'm shooting that damn thing.
Have you used it recently?
Yeah.
Because I thought they changed that.
I know they changed the animation a little bit, and I think they changed
so
the light coming out. Yeah, I haven't used it lately, so maybe that's already been fixed a little bit. So
I remember hearing about it because I know a lot of people complain about that. So
well, before we move on from ability changes, any other comments you wanted to mention before we move on to guns?
Not necessarily. All I'm thinking is that they seem like minimal changes, but with the changes of how much super you get and how you're going to be limited on it, I think overall it's going to give you a little bit of variety. It's not going to be so much, well, I run this class, so I'm only going to run this subclass in PvP. I think it's going to definitely at first going to let people experiment, see, what builds they can create and try out all the different changes. But I think you're going to see a little bit more variety, which I like. I'm tired of running into the same builds and same subclasses in PvP, so should be interesting.
These are the two things that I'm this gives me hope about. One, you're not going to have teams stacking supers against you in Crucible, because it's going to be that much harder to stack it unless they're just really elite players, and you just can't do anything about that. They're always outside the bell curve. So, and the second thing, it's all going to be about gun skill now. It's kind of going back not to team shot meta of Destiny, of the first year of Destiny 2, but remember we only got one super in Destiny 2 when it first came out. I think they're like, okay, unless you're really, really good, you're only going to probably get one super, and you better use it effectively.
Right. When I think if you're that good and you're getting 2 supers, and again, we're just kind of speculating for, maybe you start playing and you notice, well, it's noticeable, but it's still very doable if you're playing correctly. You're not dying, you're getting a lot of kills, a lot of assists, that kind of stuff. But what it does is it limits, like you said, people in comp, where as soon as somebody had one super and they were a good organized team, they could just super each round, one person uses super, everybody follows them, picks up the orbs. Now everybody has super. Okay, hey, I'm going to use my super this round. I'm going to use it this round. And it was nonstop. So,
and here's another thing we're not even thinking about, Rocker, is we don't know anything about these mods yet. The artifacts, right. We don't know what those are going to do either. So it may even all out. It may even make it OP again. I don't know. That's the unknown here. So we're just speculating here about
what I think it's going to do. It's going to make it more, gun skill, like you said, but also your abilities are going to play a lot more of a factor. Especially once you get intellect, discipline, and whatever the other one was, but that was for super.
Right.
But I think it's going to definitely force people to analyze and strategize when they're going to use those supers.
Right.
And focus more on gunplay and ability.
Yeah.
Which actually I think might be good. I think those people that are going to put in the work in there to learn map movement or just in general better movement are going to kind of skyrocket to the higher tier skill level, whereas people who don't really pay attention and kind of crutch on supers or just their abilities alone might end up suffering. So we'll see.
Time will tell on that too. So we'll have to see how that affects the more casual players in PvP. Hopefully it's welcoming to everybody, but it sounds like they've raised the skill ceiling a little bit in PvP overall. It sounds like it, at least to me, that you're going to need to know a little bit more game sense on how to use your supers and map control and map knowledge and stuff is going to be a lot more of an impact and more of a factor. So,
well, and I think not overall the skill level has been like they've raised the ceiling, but I think those that were kind of mid to top are gonna kind of go up more to the top level because they're gonna be more aware of when to use things versus just kind of aimlessly using a super on one person versus waiting to use it on 2 or 3.
Yep. I think okay. Yeah. we're in a little bit of a disagreement, but I think we're pretty much in this. No, I think we're in the same area, general area though. I think until it comes out, we won't really know for sure. But I mean, like I said, we're speculating it all based on these two TWABs that came out because this is all we got to work with. I mean, we tried to wait and see if they had any more information, but this is what we got to work with. So we have to speculate a little bit, which we'll see. We'll see how it turns out. So, all right, well, let's move on to weapons.
Guardians are measured by their ability to come back from defeat. So stand. Fight! Okay, now let's talk about the weapons part of the new Shadowkeep coming out. And we're going to, this is a lot of speculation. They gave us very limited info on PvP changes, but I want to read this one sentence real quick. It said, in terms of how these changes will impact your PvP experience, a few weapons and archetypes are being buffed, and some seeing more aggressive range fall off to give breathing room to scout rifles and other weapons. So it talks about, what a combatants are going to be easier to kill with certain weapon types. That's kind of PvE, doesn't really apply to PvP, so I'm kind of skipping over that. But what do you think about that? I mean, it sounds like, we're going to go through the weapon types here real quick and then come up with some examples of what we think is going to be good coming up. And I've got my dim pulled up here where I can look at that. But what do you think about that overall? I mean, the fact that they only buffed just a few weapons here going into PvP.
Well, and I think to me that just screams versatility or variety, because I think what they're going to do is, like, say a hand cannon has a certain amount of range. I think it's just going to make it work within that range, and as soon as you're out of it, it's a huge drop off. So I think that's what they're kind of using, to where right now, like a blast furnace has the same range as a scout rifle, but it's easier to use, or it does more damage, or whatever it may be. So I think that's kind of how they're going to try and balance everything and give the sandbox a little bit of variety. Is just minimal changes without completely revamping all the weapon types or nerfing all the weapon types.
Well, let me ask you this. What do you think about the meta right now? Do you think it's pretty balanced? Do you think they're fine-tuning it, getting it?
No. I mean, scout rifles, to be honest, are trash.
Yeah, I agree.
Unless it's a really big map and you're using high-impact scouts, then, in my opinion, they're trash. Pulse rifles are good. The fast-firing ones, not so much, just because of the range, and you have things like even Bygones or Blast Furnace where they can map you, but they're doing a lot more damage. Hand cannons, I think this is a PC thing where you can just map people.
Yeah.
On console, it's not as bad, but it's still, you get some hand cannons with some 78, 80 range, and it's pretty ridiculous. So I don't think it's as balanced. Auto rifles, I think right now are in a really, really bad place.
Oh my god!
So we'll see.
Yeah. Well, let's go through them real quick.
Yeah.
Let's start with auto rifles. Since you mentioned that, it said the PVE damage was increased from 30% and 25% depending on combatant rank. Nothing for PvP. What the hell, Bungie? What the hell? All right, I got to tell you a story. I got my Suros Regime Catalyst. I had to get 300 kills in the Crucible with this damn thing.
Oh, jeez.
And I tried the speed up, the speed up version of the gun. I tried the slowing down version of the gun. Mm-hmm. And I think both worked about the same. But I ended up going, I think I finished with the dual speed receiver, the one that slows down, mainly because it hit harder and I didn't have to stay in the shot. Here's the problem with auto rifles. Pulse rifles and scouts and hand cannons, you can poke out, get a headshot, pounce back in, poke out, just keep whittling the player down. Eventually, if they're not smart and run away, you pop them, they're done. Auto rifles, you pop around the corner and you got the trigger, you're pressing the trigger down, you're trying to follow and stay zoned in on the target. And that's the only way you can really do any damage, because the damage is so weak per bullet that you have to stay and commit fully to the shot. And that's where auto rifles, I don't know, Bungie, I don't know what you're thinking here, but there's a lot of good auto rifles out there, and I know a lot of friends who like to use them, especially casuals, because of the ease of use. But I don't know, what do you think, man? I'm perplexed why they haven't touched auto rifles. Maybe they're worried about Destiny 1. Remember, auto rifles in year 1 were just so...
That's what I was going to say. It's kind of funny that they've fallen off so much, because Destiny 2 year 1 was like nothing but Uriel's gift, and
yeah.
Oh man, there was the other one that gave you kill clip, but it was like the flinch from Uriel's gift, and then that other auto rifle, and that's like all people would run because it was team fire. They were easy to use. They were fast time to kill, And now, God, it's funny you mentioned Surios because I ended up using that for the Iron Banner bounty. And I started off with the fast spin up. It felt like, well, maybe it'll flinch them or it'll take them down quick. Unless I was like right next to them, it felt like it didn't do anything.
Yeah.
So I switched over to the dual receiver, and I had to make it a very conscious decision to try and land crit shots, because otherwise the time to kill was just absurd.
Yeah.
It feels like you have to hit crits or you're gonna lose to anything. It's crazy.
Exactly the way I felt. And at least with the dual speed receiver where it slowed down, you were getting more damage per bullet, and because it was slower firing, it didn't raise up on you. I mean, it was easier to stay on target, so that's why I finished with that. But I'm looking at auto rifles here that I want to use, like Tiger Spite. Such a smooth rifle. What about the breakneck that we worked so hard to get? I want to use that in a Crucible, but I'm afraid to. I mean, it even works okay in Gambit, but it's still not, unless I have to get auto rifle kills, you won't see me with an auto rifle in Gambit. So they're just all around piss poor, man. They're really hurting.
Yeah.
So, okay, well, I think we both agree on that weapon. Let's talk about bows. They said that no PvP changes. What the hell? PvE damage was increased to plus 31 against minors and plus 26% against majors. Nothing for PvP. Aren't those hard enough to use as it is?
I think it takes a very specific playstyle.
Yeah.
I've gone against players who know how to use them, and basically it's you poke out, you get a headshot, you poke out and finish up. It's definitely not like your hand cannon or your pulse rifle where you can kind of be very aggressive with it, although I have seen some people use them that way. But I think it's one of those mid to longer range where 2 shots they're dead if you land a headshot and a body shot.
Right.
But for me the way I play, it just doesn't work for me.
It's like a very high impact, slow firing scout rifle. When I do have to use it in Crucible, that's the way I've always used it. Problem is, unless you have something that does damage over time, like that exotic bow, the
Le Monarch.
Yes, the Le Monarch. I use it. I mean, I have it, and I've gotten killed by it before. But usually what'll happen is they'll shoot me. I'll realize, oh crap, that's a Le Monarch because I'm getting ticks of damage. I'll go hide and wait for my armor to build back up again. I'll just poke back out again. And it's got to frustrate the hell out of guys, even using La Monarch, which has damage over time like a thorn. I don't know. I guess rest in peace bows are not going to be used a whole lot. It's going to be that weird player that uses it in the Crucible, that not weird, I guess unique player that likes to use it in the Crucible. So all right, let's talk about hand cannons. This was nice. They did change the firing animation on lightweight and adaptives. These are lightweight. We're talking about when I think adaptive, I'm thinking about Better Devils. Kind of, what is that? The
140s.
Yeah, the 140s. Does that include the 150s too? Well, I guess the only
so lightweight is 150. Adaptive is a 140.
Okay. See, I don't use a lot of hand cannons, so you have more knowledge in this than I do. But I did notice that when I would fire a 140 or a 150, I noticed the animation that I was firing faster than the gun could keep up. And I didn't know where my bullets were going exactly. I was trying to wait for the reticle to settle before I fired my next shot, but it never would quite settle. So maybe they're fixing that now where it'll set faster.
Right.
What do you think?
Well, and that was a confusing... I mean, they kind of try and clarify it. Says this change was made to increase weapon accuracy when firing these weapons as fast as possible.
Right.
So I do notice, obviously, if you're spamming, which it's a hand cannon, you're not really supposed to be spamming it.
Right.
But if you're within range, if you're super close to the person and it looks like you're right on them, you got the quote unquote ghost bullets where it should have hit because even the reticle, the furthest out point is still on the player. So I did notice that. So hopefully, I mean, from what they're saying, it looks like hand cannons should be more accurate when you're kind of spamming them, which, I mean, I love hand cannons. It's about not all I use in PvP, but it is my primary. And I think, especially in the air too. Well, trying to spam it in the air should be nice. So we'll see.
I'm reading this one thing they mentioned. It says, reduce the effect the range stat has on damage range fall off. In other words, effective range for this weapon archetype. What does that mean? Can you explain that?
So I had to read that a lot too, but basically, and that's strange that it's on adaptive and lightweight.
Right.
But the way I'm reading that is that range fall off isn't going to drop off as much as with other hand cannons.
Okay.
So it won't be that sharp of a change. So if you're doing 65 and you're out of range, it's not going to drop off to 30 all of a sudden. I think it'll be a little bit less than what leads me to believe all the other hand cannons are going to be perhaps a dramatic fall off.
Yeah, I think
where once you're out of that range, it's like, oof, you just fall off a cliff. So we'll see.
So the subtext here is Bungie wants people to use more 140s and 150s, and they're making it a little easier for you to use them. It looks to me like they're trying to get more people to use those hand cannons versus the 180s, which a lot of people love using those.
Right. Well, because there's no recoil.
Yeah.
So I think that's going to be the trade-off. It's use 180s. The range fall off is greater, but there's no recoil. So, again, that kind of balancing with little changes to where, this map, I know I'm going to I play super aggressive. I can play with a 180 because I'll be within range.
Right.
Or, I better use a 140 because I'm not going to see that much of a change. So.
Right. Yeah. Now, let's talk about the next thing they mentioned is machine guns. The damage against miners increased by 25% in PvE, but the increased effects of damage fall off on this weapon archetype has been increased. So basically, you're not going to be able to map people in Gambit or in Crucible with machine guns anymore. They're not going to be little mini sniper rifles,
which at the current meta is ridiculous.
It's a good thing.
I would think so, especially on PC. Again, I don't play PC. I'm on console, but on PC with no recoil or being able to keep your mouse on somebody, you gotta think that's ridiculous.
Yeah, but I play PC and I use controller, and I'm telling you, the recoil is it's still less. It's still less than console.
Wow.
Especially hand cannons. There's no bloom. At least the little bit I've used, it's a lot more accurate when you get that reticle on someone's head in PvP versus on console. On console, I won't even use a hand cannon; they're garbage. But if you get an Ace of Spades, and which I think worked really well on PC and in PvP for controller, it was deadly, dude. It was really deadly. So yeah, that's a good thing. We can both agree that's a good thing. They've increased the effective range fall off, which that needed to be done anyway. Because in Destiny 1, that's the way the machine guns were automatically. You couldn't shoot across the map with them, at least most of them.
Right. And as you're reading these, just so people know, they're changing how crit multipliers work against PvE enemies. Basically, every enemy is ranked now from a minor to a major to a boss, and the damage increase or decrease is based on that particular rank of enemy and the weapon you're using it.
Right.
So it's no longer, because I think default was like you get a crit shot, it did twice as much damage on any enemy, but now it'll be like a 1.3 on a major versus a 1.7 on a minor or something like that.
Well, another thing that I realized talking about PvE now is I would always have to, even with crits, I'd have to two-shot, even little minors, little dregs and stuff, I'd have to two-shot a lot of times if I got a body and a headshot. So I think I think if anything, they're going to make it more effective to kill miners with just regular guns, and then they're increasing the damage against them. It looks like almost across the board PvE, they're increasing damage to a lot of stuff like sidearms, snipers, scout, pulse,
basically every weapon.
Yeah, machine guns, everything. So
which I think it's good because I think again they're trying to give people options versus I'm just going to run this that I run all the time. So it's a good thing.
Yeah. So is there a looking at the hand cannons? What we're talking about hand cannons. Is there a hand cannon that you're gonna look to be using or switching to, or are you gonna stick with the same thing? I'm looking at Dim here. I don't use hand cannons, but what would you think would be a good hand cannon for the casual player going into Shadowkeep? What should they start out with? If that's what
if you're going 140s right now, you can still farm the Menagerie. So try and go for an Austringer. Austringer gives you good range, good perks, and it's pretty easy to use. You do have to pace your shots. It's the one thing you'll learn. If you don't use hand cannons, I would highly recommend going to the tribute hall or somewhere and kind of learning how to pace your shots. Don't just spam it, because in PvP you're probably gonna lose that battle. But Austringer, Better Devils is solid. I don't like the way it sounds, which to me makes a difference in how, I don't know, I guess how I use it or how it performs in my head. But really liking Austringer. I think that'll stay top tier. Man, for energy, I'm not sure. Kindled Orchid might make a comeback actually.
Well, I was just on Potato Thumbs, and we talked about that Kindled Orchid, that one. Man,
curated roll.
Yeah, curated roll. Thank you.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, there was a curated roll of Kindled Orchid. I was looking at it here. It had Kill Clip and Rampage.
Yeah, Rampage, right?
So that might be something to try if you get lucky enough to get that roll. So okay, good examples. Yeah. Good examples. Let's move on to pulse rifles now. Obviously, PvE damage is increased, but it increases the effects of damage range fall off of this weapon archetype. Archetype specific damage changes impacts both PvE and PvP gameplay. And the two pulses they mention are rapid fire pulse rifles now deal 14 and 23.8 versus a 13 and 21.4 that they previously had. High impact pulse rifles now deal 21 and 33.6 versus a 20 and 32. What this tells me is you might possibly be able to two-tap people in the Crucible with these archetypes of pulse rifles. What do you think?
That sounds about right. At least with the high impact for sure, because 33 times, 6?
Mm-hmm.
3 is 180, and I think they're 198 or so.
Yeah, so
Close
basically that would be okay. So I'm assuming the stats and armor are going to be the same, which we can't assume that.
Mm-hmm.
But if we're basing it on their current armor, that would be probably an 8 armor and below, which almost is any armor. What's the middle perk called?
Resilience.
Resilience. Thank you. Man, my mind is going tonight. It must be this Florida weather. This heat's getting to me. So if you have a high resilience, like an 8 or below, which that's just about everybody. I've seen a couple players come in with 10 resilience, like Titans. You could pretty much 2-tap, and you wouldn't even have to hit all headshots either. So,
right. Well, because previously, like high impacts, they said it was 20 in PvE, 32 in PvP. Mm-hmm. That's the way I'm reading. I'm not sure if it's right.
Oh no, 32. That's base and precision. And those are PvP numbers. So.
Gotcha.
Or I'm hoping, it doesn't. It says impact.
Yeah.
So like high impact.
So 32 times 6, you're at 192. So you can still survive if you're like resilience 4 or higher. I think you're at 194 ish.
Yeah. Okay.
Well, now 33.6 times 6, you're at 201.6. So that kills any guardian.
Anybody.
2-tap.
So high impact pulses, and this is my wheelhouse. This is what I like to use. And rapid fire pulses could possibly quickly down people in PvP. What do you have any examples of pulse rifles you would use in this situation? I know I have some examples, but I want to see if you had any.
Well, and the thing is, you got to pay attention to is increase the effects of damage range fall off on.
Yes.
So rapid fire for the most part are pretty low range, so they're like medium to close up. So if you're super aggressive, that's how you play, then definitely
it's gonna pay off.
Kind of keep those in mind, yeah. I think that'll pay off.
Well, I'm looking at.
But as soon as you get to that medium and high, you're going to be in trouble though, because I expect it's going to be a sharp downturn.
Yeah. Well, two pulses that come to mind are Claws of the Wolf, which is a fast firing pulse. I have one that has Outlaw and the full auto trigger. So if you're running around and treating it like an auto rifle or even an SMG, because of these higher damage numbers, you might be able to pull that off. And I know Astercross loves fast firing pulses, so you might see him using Claws of the Wolf more, or maybe in a Lincoln Green or something like that. It fires really fast but has very short range. So I'm looking at this Claws of the Wolf. Even with high caliber rounds, it still only has a range of 54. That's pretty poor. And being that they're reducing the effective drop off, I mean they're making the drop off. If I hear this right, they're making the effective range drop off more sudden. Does that make sense?
Yeah. So as soon as you hit outside of optimal range, you're going to see a big difference in the damage you're doing.
Right. And
54 still gives you about mid range.
That's spec'd out to have. I mean, most of them probably are in the 40s.
Well, and that's the thing. If you like those, you're going to have to probably search for those perks that give you more range, which you might sacrifice something else.
Right. Yeah.
But high impacts are interesting because high impacts currently are the 340, so Redrix archetypes.
Oh my God.
2 burst now.
Redrix is going to be everywhere, dude.
That's crazy to me.
If you have a Redrix, I think it's going to be a Redrix meta. I really do. I mean, I'd love to pull my Einstein D that I'm looking at right now. It has a range of 78, impact of 33. So
the one you have?
Yeah, the one I have, and it has I have rangefinder and kill clip on it. And I have the extended mag, and I've got the sight, the hollow sight on it, which gives a little bit more range as well. But I also have an LB Assault, which gives no, it's about the same. It does increase the range by 9. It's a little bit of a bump. But if you're the type of player who likes to lane and likes to sit back in like zone control areas, you might have a shot to use them. I don't know. The Haka slow firing pulse rifles are really hard to control, but those two come to mind. Chattering Bone is another one. That's a 450. That's kind of
so that wouldn't be affected by either.
That wouldn't, because that's kind of right in the middle, isn't it? That's more your adaptive styles.
Yeah, 450 is like your Outbreak perfected.
Yep, and also the one from the Vanguard, the
Nightshade.
The Nightshade, yeah. I used to love that. God, the beta that thing was great.
Do you have a Bygones? What is a Bygones? Is that a 340?
Bygones, I've got a ton of Bygones. I've got one with a range masterwork at 76.
Because if a Bygones is a 340, holy crap, you're going to see a lot of this.
It's a 390.
Might actually...
It's a 390.
Is it? Okay. So
yeah, it's an adaptive. It won't be affected. Those things
so
are already...
340.
Those things are already so powerful, but I'm thinking
slow. Yeah.
Oh, wait a minute. Slow firing pulse. I'm trying to think what else I have here. I'm looking at my library. Now, I use a lot of 390s too because they're very good. I'm trying to think. Okay, 3 Graves. That's going to be a great pulse. I used to use that in year 1 when pulses really had the slow firing pulses. This was the one you got from one of the factions when they had faction rallies. It was a super long range, slow firing 340 pulse rifle. It fired a lot like the Lincoln Green, but it was a slow firing rifle.
Oh, okay.
And I don't have it because I already destroyed it, but I can pull it up anytime because it's a year 1 weapon. It's in collections. I might be pulling that out. 3 Graves, that might be one to try. So other fast firing pulse rifles, I'm trying to see here.
Yeah, if you have 340s, I highly recommend keeping those, especially if you have some with good rolls, because that in anything like even Rampage or Kill Clip, anything that gives you bonus damage, I think that's going to help your range.
Yes.
So once that perk's active, your range goes a little bit higher, even if you're not in that optimal. So definitely keep those in mind.
Well, let's move on to scout rifles then. Nothing has been done for PvE damage on scout rifles, but I think because the damage fall off range, like you mentioned earlier,
right,
they might be more feasible to use now. I mean, the scout rifles that I use in Crucible are the Jade Rabbit and the Mida. I still use the Mida a little bit, and that's about it. I mean, maybe the fast firing like Black Scorpion 4SR, but it has a range of 24. It's just pathetic. I mean, if you can get close enough, you might as well use a pulse rifle, right? I don't know.
Well, and the one thing you'll notice is they didn't talk about range fall off on scout rifles.
No, they didn't.
So, in my opinion, they're going to stay as is. So, where a pulse rifle, you get out of that optimal range, you're kind of not necessarily screwed, but you're definitely not going to be doing as much damage as to where you have a scout rifle that's got that same range now, a little bit more range.
Right.
Then, because I use Mida. Honestly, it's a little bit slow on the time to kill, but I just like it because it gives you a better neutral game with increased sprint speed. Plus, you can see down sights with
even your strafe speed while aiming down the sights is so much better.
Yeah. So
I
don't know, it just still feels good.
I've always loved that rifle, even from Destiny 1. I still love using it, especially on a bigger map where people are trying to rush you and you have plenty of time to shoot them. Is there any scout rifles that come to mind other than Mida that you would bring in next season for someone who's trying to think what they would want to bring in? I'm thinking Polaris Lance is going to probably even better now.
Yeah, that's in the same range as Jade Rabbit.
It's
3-tab. The Vanguard one, I don't remember what it's called. But it was like the go-to PvE.
The night.
No, what the heck was it called?
Let me see if I still have one here. Oh, wait a minute. The Night Watch, which is the new scout. No, that's the new scout from the not from Prime. You can get it from Prime and Reckoning.
Okay.
Yeah, definitely. That might be an option. I'm trying to see. I've got a Transfiguration from the Last Wish raid. Or from the Dreaming City. That has a range of 81. That might be it's a slow firing one. So I don't know. We'll have to see.
I think you're going to see a lot of 200s. 200 RPM is going to be, I think, that's the Mida archetype. I think that you'll see an influx of those.
Okay, let's keep moving on here. Sidearms, no change. Sniper rifles, no change. Submachine guns. Let's see.
Nameless Midnight. I found it.
Nameless Midnight. Thank you. I'll add it in. I'll cut out all that crap I just talked, and I'll put Nameless Midnight like we knew it all along.
Nameless Midnight. Oh yeah.
I mean, sidearms, sniper rifle, submachine guns. I think the Recluse is still going to be pretty good. Let's see. Bonus damage has been moved to the base damage for 750 RPMs, something resulting in no damage change. As a result, Teraba and Huckleberry gain 10% damage in both PvE and PvP. No one uses those in PvP. I mean, I wouldn't. Huckleberry, I've used it before. I think I used it just playing around with it one time, but it takes so long the time to kill is like.
Yeah, I'm just not a fan of submachine guns in general.
Yeah, and they're not
even Recluse on console. The recoil just to me, unless I'm like right all up in their face, it's just like it doesn't work for me.
It's all over the place. Yeah, I mean, I think that's pretty much only for the PC players that don't have to worry about recoil, because if you take away recoil, that gun is just
jeez,
Now it like I told my buddies on the regular podcast, I said, that thing is better in PvE than it is in PvP.
Oh, for sure.
You can literally just hip fire that thing through ads. So
it is the one gun though that I run out of ammo pretty quickly.
Yeah,
I'm mowing down through everything.
Oh, it's 900 RPM. I mean, that's a lot of bullets at one time. Let's see, exotics. Let's go over a few exotics here. Mm-hmm. The one thing I did want to mention, Sweet Business. They're moving it from high caliber rounds to armor piercing rounds, which that's pretty much for PvE. There, you'll be able to go right through lines of ads.
Yeah, I mean the big change in PvP, the only thing I can see is that people like to spam it, especially like if they're controlling zones, they can just have it fully spinning the whole time, which can be a pain in the butt because high caliber rounds make your freaking screen shake like crazy. So no longer having that, I think it'll maybe make it a little easier to counter. So that would be my only thing.
And I'm working on the catalyst on that now. It's one of my last weapons I need to finish the catalyst on, so it reduces flinch even more. And they did increase the damage, your base damage, quite a bit from
body damage.
Your body shot damage went up a couple points, but really no real change on precision. But that thing is really made to shoot through bodies, not really precision.
I mean, mind you, they did increase the mag from 100 to 150.
Yeah, I mean that can give you more. Yeah, it's like a super machine gun. I mean, it's like a big auto rifle. So,
and now I didn't know this because I don't use it, but it says this weapon no longer requires you to be firing when you pick up ammo to have it automatically reload.
Oh god, that's gonna be crazy.
So you can just walk over ammo and boom, 150 shots.
So now primary ammo scavenger is going to be useful in the Crucible if you have this gun.
Jeez.
Sunshot. They increased the magazine size to 12. Thank God.
Finally,
I just finished the catalyst on this, and I was like, man, you know what this thing needs? It just needs more ammo in the clip, and it'd be really good.
With the catalyst, that thing is a beast. It basically gives you like 40% increased range to it. Yeah. But the 8 shots was what kind of hurt it. So having 12, I think that'll be one of the hand cannons you'll see a lot people using if they have the catalyst.
Yeah, I agree. Not only increase range, but doesn't the headshot explosive damage, does it increase as well? Or does that stay the same? I can't remember.
I don't think the catalyst does, but they did buff it in
that's
one of the last patches. The explosion increased.
That's right. I remember that. That was one of the things they changed to it overall. Vigilance wing, no real difference other than PvE. Now the elephant in the room is the Crimson. Oh my god, dude! They increased the damage, base damage 19 and 30.5 for precision. And it previously was only 13.7 and 24.7. Dude, I think that thing's going to be in the PvP. I think it's going to be in the Crucible. What do you think?
Yeah, that's 2.5 bursts now to kill.
God, man, that's going to be crazy.
Well, if you land all crits, but yeah.
I remember trying to get my hand cannon kills for, I think it was that one of the pinnacle weapons. I can't remember because I just hate hand cannons on console. They're just really tough. But I remember I was like, I got to use something. It's like a pulse rifle, and I used this Crimson, and I'd get down to it's really accurate because I have the catalyst on mine, so the range is like phenomenal.
Right.
The range and stability is just crazy high on this gun. It literally is a pulse rifle. I mean, you might as well call it a Red Death. It acts just like it. And I was going in there, and I was like, oh, I got him. Oh, ran out of ammo, and they'd run away. It just took, you had to empty your entire clip to get people down with that thing. So now it might be, like you said, a 2.5 or 3, a 3 pull. A 3 pull will do it.
Right.
So
now what they are fixing though is the flinch, and that's definitely one of the things I noticed going against them is that your screen moved like crazy.
Yeah.
So apparently there was a problem where they was dealing way more flinch than intended. So they're fixing that, which I think with the increase to its damage should about balance it out. Should be pretty good.
Right.
Now, real quick, you did skip over Graviton Lance, and what I want to say real quick on that is the range on that thing is ridiculous. So if you like pulse rifles and you're kind of scared of that range drop off, that's going to be a gun to kind of keep an eye on.
Very good point. I know my buddy Easy got it, and he just finished a catalyst on it. I have the catalyst on it as well. I've gotten a lot of multi kills in PvP with that gun. We have people bunched up.
It's a good gun. 2 shots does hits like a hammer. It's gonna be nice.
Yeah, I'll probably give that a shot again. But I don't know, man. I might be using Crimson. I might be in there being a hand cannon user when I'm not really a hand cannon guy. But God, those numbers, you can't argue with those numbers. They're really high.
Yeah.
Let's see, Merciless, they fixed a missing aim assist stat for the weapon. I think that's more of a technical thing there. Ace of Spades, Memento Mori's damage bonus is now affected by range fall off, so it's gonna fall, in that same boat as the rest of the hand cannons out there. Lumina, Noble rounds should apply their buff fast, more reliably. Yeah, they were kind of slow getting to your allies when you shot that thing, so maybe they'll get a little bit quicker to get to people. The Colony. Now will function like the auto-loading holster does. That's scary because boom, 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 pocket it. Use your primary or your fusion rifle, or whatever, and then get it back and boom, 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 shoot it again. That might be scary in the especially the people trying to get mountaintop. I might be running into more of that.
I mean, that's what I was using to try and get it. I don't recall what Serve the Colony did before, though.
I don't remember either. I even have the catalyst for that done because it was pretty easy to get that catalyst finished.
Oh, okay. It says insectoid robot grenades quickly repopulate the magazine from reserves while the colony is unequipped.
Okay.
So kind of like audio loading holster. It really didn't.
So not really
maybe
much
just
change.
faster.
Yeah. It'll be more. Well, yeah. It'll instead of. Yeah, I remember now. The insectoid, what it would do is it would do one at a time. It'd reload it. So now it's probably just going to do it all at once, like auto-loading holster does. So, okay, we got to talk about a couple of the perks here. Were there any weapons you wanted to mention that you would want to bring in? We're looking over all these weapons.
Man. Not necessarily specific, but I think you're really going to want to look for weapons with high range.
Yeah.
I think... I have a feeling range is going to be the kind of the balancing factor with hand cannons, pulse rifles, scout rifles, where instead of nerfing the numbers themselves, it's you have to be in that optimal range. And once you're out of it, you're going to see a big drop off. So I would keep guns that have a higher than normal range. And if you have dim, it kind of tells you what, with the little bar, either red or yellow, whatever, what the norm is, and then whether you're above it or below it. And I would definitely spec out for kill clip or rampage, anything that might give you a boost to damage, just because it's going to also increase your range, and then also look for range perks.
One thing I wanted to mention before we leave weapons here is go to Tribute Hall if you've opened it and pop up the enemies and just start finding what your effective range is. The room's big enough. You can move back and back and back until you can on real time see what your damage numbers are. That's how the YouTubers do it. Now they just go in Tribute Hall and pop up a drag or an ogre or something, and they'll just keep moving, and they'll use their sniper rifle to determine the range they're at and figure out what your range is and get used to that. And I'm telling you, the people that are going to be able to adjust to that quicker are really going to own in the Crucible. So figure out your ranges, figure out what's effective for the gun that you like to use, and go into Tribute Hall and test it out. Perks here. Let's talk about perks. Subsistence. I don't know if you're familiar with this perk. I have it on a few of my guns from Reckoning. It reduces the impact of this perk on total reserves. In other words, it would suck a lot of your reserves away. Are you familiar with this perk? Subsistence?
I've had it on a couple guns. I don't think I ever noticed what the heck it did.
It just takes a lot of your reserve ammo away. You run out of ammo a lot faster to get the perk to work, but
gotcha.
It's reduced that problem. So that might be more of a a mod that you can use now. Ricochet rounds remove the hidden bonus to damage fall off. So this goes right back into the damage fall off problem that we're going to have in PvP. So now you can't really rely on ricochet rounds to give you a huge boost in range.
Right. Well, because that would, again, like it says, it's a hidden perk. If you watch the Fallout videos, you know what he's talking about. So not only does it give you extra range, which wasn't shown in the stat bar, but it also gave you a better aim assist magnetism. So that they're kind of doing away with that extra range. So rangefinder probably better than ricochet rounds now, or another perk like that. Yeah,
it's going to change the god rolls now a little bit, because ricochet rounds were in a lot of god roll weapons. So now you might have to re-roll or go farm it again. The swashbuckler perk, which I know is big on shotguns, it now activates when getting a kill with ball lightning. Grave Robber perk now activates when getting a kill with ranged melee abilities like ball lightning and explosive knife. Yeah, I know you're gonna like that, because I know you use knives a lot, don't you, with that golden gun?
Yeah. In the top tree, the explosive knife, I tend to use it more for controlling, kind of like you would use a grenade. So if I see somebody's kind of pushing around the corner, I would throw it or pre-fire it to do some damage. So by the time they get around the corner, they've already taken some damage. So easier to kill. Not necessarily to kill them with it. Bottom tree is a little bit better for that, but that's kind of how I used it, like a mini grenade.
Right.
But now if I do get that explosive damage and it kills them and I have Grave Robber, it's going to reload my gun. So
1-2 punch, it reduces the effectiveness of stacking 1-2 punch and cross counter and other bars handshake. No more Riven punching. I think they're targeting toward PvP there, or I'm sorry, PvE.
PvE for
raids.
Sure.
Yeah.
I was farming some guns in Menagerie, and at 10 p.m. PST, it changed to Brawler and Grounded. So I was like, okay, well, time to switch to Arc Strider, top tree with Liar's Handshake and 1-2 punch shotty.
Right.
That thing is insane.
Yeah,
you get a 3-stack plus counter punch plus 1-2 punch. It's just nuts. So I know why they're doing it, but it's definitely a PvE thing.
Well, you're not going to be able to multi-stack a lot of your perks when the Shadowkeep comes out anyway. Right. So that probably falls right into place anyway. But I think we talked about everything. Anything else you want to add as far as what you're looking for in the Crucible, or any other comments you have?
I'm pretty excited. I think, like I said, it's going to be a lot of variety, especially probably like the first month or so.
Yeah.
In a season, or when there's a big sandbox change, you always get that people trying out new guns or new builds or new stuff. So you'll get that anyway. But I think once the dust settles, you'll see a lot more variety, a lot more options versus just the 1-2 guns that people use. So I'm excited about that. And the super changes, I'm really excited about being able to challenge, or just not people relying on those as much.
Yeah. Three words for me sums up the Crucible and Shadowkeep, I think. Less super energy. Well, that's 3 words in it. All right, 3 phrases. Less super energy. Crimson, slow firing pulse rifles. I'm looking forward to using them. So
there you go.
Yeah, I think that pretty much sums it up. Well, hopefully we were able to shed some light for some of you guys out there who are kind of wondering what to use going into the Crucible, going into Shadowkeep in the next season. And that does fall October 1st, so make sure you got all your cross-play stuff set up, or cross-save set up. Make sure you got your PC accounts leaked to Steam, by the way. Hey, Rocker, thanks for coming out tonight, man. Really appreciate it. Where can people reach you? Where can people find you, man?
First off, thank you so much for inviting me. Again, I just play. I don't really consider myself a great PvP player, but I mean, I enjoy it. I guess my stats are a little bit higher than normal, but yeah, you guys can primarily find me on Twitter, twitter.com/NFGRockerDude, and then playing on Twitch, twitch.tv/RockerDude.
Yeah, I've been on your Twitch streams, man. They're a lot of fun. You do a lot of neat stuff in your streams, and don't any of you buy this that he's not good at Crucible. You just heard how he broke down all these abilities and stuff. He knows what he's doing out there. But no one likes to gloat. I mean, we all are.
I might know a thing or two.
Yeah, we're all students of the game. That's the reason I love doing this kind of segment, because we're always trying to learn and get better. And so yeah, well, thanks everybody for listening. And remember, record gameplay and watch it back every week. That's the only way you can get better, is to know what you're doing wrong. So thank you very much for listening, and later, Guardian.